But the devices, it's only about going back and adjusting to what the FDA wants, and one day you will get the clearance, right? It's not that we won't get clearance. The devices, you don't know when you will get the clearance, but you will get the clearance, right? It's just you will have to redo stuff. So, but still, no one wants to put money there. So it's I don't know, it's quite weird because there's so much money going into medicine and drugs, which are like about good 40% funding. But then for devices, it's about 2% funding that comes.
Mhm.
So it's very hard to find money.
Cool. So we're on. Hi, Shavini, and welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here and connect once again since we last saw each other in Malta during MedTech World last year for a panel on stage that I had the chance to moderate and where you spoke, where we talked about entrepreneurship in in medical technology in MedTech, what it meant to be a woman these days, leading a MedTech business. I think the recording is online, so I'll add the link, to the episode description if listeners want to check it out. As we are also, preparing, ourselves for the next season of the show, I was really keen to have you on the podcast. There are several reasons for it. I think first you have a very interesting and quite incredible, history as a patient on the personal side. So we'll talk about that in a minute. You have a contagious, energy and enthusiasm that I haven't seen in many people, to be honest, for having spent some time with you in Malta. Unless you also developed, yourself what is now a medical device that, you wear every day, and that, basically transformed to a large extent, your quality of life. So I don't want to spoil, any listeners. I won't say more. I'm just very thankful for your presence and time. And to get us started, I would simply ask you to present yourself.
Hi, I'm Shavini Fernando, the founder CEO of OxiWear. And literally, I started this in 2019 because I came to US for a second opinion as I got diagnosed with Eisenmenger syndrome in 2015. And then I was told that I am not supposed to go home again because I can't get on a flight. And then I was studying at Georgetown because I had to get my visa sorted. It's the easiest place to study again. But while I was studying, as a result of Eisenmenger syndrome, everyone who has Eisenmenger syndrome has severe pulmonary hypertension. So the pressure inside the heart and lungs, not the external pressure you see with the cuff, but the pressure inside the heart and lungs is really high than normal. So mine was 6 times normal. And they said it's not safe for me to get on a plane. So I had to start studying again. So because of this pulmonary hypertension, we are very hypoxic. That means our oxygen drops very low for the slightest activity that we do. And for me, as someone with Eisenmenger's, my blood flow can reverse, which is called shunting in medical terms, which ends up sending all deoxygenated blood around my body. So therefore, I can get severely hypoxic because of that. And what happens is because when it drops to really low levels, either you end up with a cardiac arrest because your heart is working extra hard to try and pump oxygenated blood, or you can get a stroke because you end up with cerebral edema because fluid starts building up in your brain when your oxygen drops too low and causing you a block of oxygen to the brain parts, and you can end up with a stroke. So I've ended up with 4 cardiac arrests, 3 strokes, and then I learned that this was mainly due to my oxygen levels dropping without a warning because since I've built this over time as an athlete and damaged the lungs, my body is quite used to functioning with very low oxygen. So even at 50% oxygen, I would not have any physical symptoms. And then it's too late once I get a cardiac arrest or a stroke to do any first aid. So I learned that this is mainly happening due to my low oxygen levels, but in the market, there was not a single device that could measure my oxygen while I'm actually actively walking around or doing day to day things. And since I was athlete, I'm still adrenaline junkie. I still love doing things I used to do before, but there is no way that I can get a alert because not a single device in the market does that. Most of the devices that continuous oxygen monitoring, they are only built for you to get a spot reading when you are still, or continuous reading also when you are still. So you need to keep your hand straight, hold it straight, and press a button to get a reading. Or even at the doctor's office, if you see the devices, they're all wired and they put it in your finger, and you need to keep it straight, the hand. If you move it a bit, it doesn't read. So there was not a single device in the market which I could wear 24/7 and measure my oxygen levels and have it letting me know ahead of time when my oxygen starts to drop. So the doctors were quite worried about me living active lifestyle or living alone. So they were like, you should not live alone. You need to move back to live with your family and stop doing all the crazy things. But I was not ready for it. You don't want your disease defining your life, right? You still, like, I don't think anyone's disease should define their life. They should just enjoy life,
Mhm.
right? Because none of us knows when we are going to die. So you need to live life to the fullest while you got it. So I didn't want this to limit what I was doing. So I created OxiWear first to prove to my doctors that I can still live my life, enjoy life, and do the things I love. So that I have a timely alert, and the doctors are also not worried because if things go wrong, I can send my report to my doctors, and they know exactly what happened, and they have my vitals for that episode when it happened. Because even when we go to a ER and when we explain, no one understands what we are saying or believes us because we don't have data to support what we are saying, right? And so this I built it first as a solution for myself. But then after I made it, all my doctors at John Hopkins were like, you need to commercialize this. Like literally all my patients need this. So that's how OxiWear started. So in 2019, then I got a grant from 10 Leonces to start the company. And I was like, oh, shit, now everyone gave me money. I had to really do this. So since 2019, yeah, I've been doing this full time and finally we're cleared as FDA device. And we're actually shipping devices in the medical market from within like another 2 weeks.
That's really cool. And I think there are different things you mentioned in your introduction. So you mentioned, 4 cardiac arrests, 3 strokes, if I understood correctly. Um, I was wondering, what is the cause of the like you did not know you had this, right? So
No.
you only realized after a certain time in your
Yeah.
life when you had the first event.
So like when I was a small, like I had breathing issues, but it was all diagnosed as asthma. And like literally for my whole life, I've been nebulizing. Like I was known as I have severe asthma because the only sign you have for a hole in the heart is just it's hard to breathe. So I've had a hole in the heart from birth. But the thing is, when I was small, they have done the test, but it was not visible. So the doctors have said there is no signs, so nothing to worry. And then when I was having breathing issues, no one literally did another test to see if that hole is there, but they all diagnosed it as asthma. So that's one of the reasons why I was swimming, because swimming was the best solution to get your lung function improved when you have asthma, right? And so I could only do like short distance, like sprinting and swimming both, because anything more than 100 meters, I feel it in my heart. I go breathless. So then in 2015, like after I left school and I was in Australia and all, I was having more breathing issues. And I literally thought it was because now I'm not working out as much as I did and I have poor cardio because I'm not training like I used to do in college. So, and then even the doctors were like, oh, you need to work out more, swim more, like, and they were changing my inhaler. But then towards like 2014, 15, I started turning blue. And for that, I went to a doctor and I said, like, something's got to be wrong with my heart because I'm turning blue. And then only they diagnosed it. So what they said was like literally, if I knew my oxygen levels were falling before 7 years back, like that means around 2008, then they could have diagnosed me early and they could have, then they have signs to show that something's wrong and they would have done invasive tests and diagnosed and closed the hole in my heart. But now, because it was not closed, there's no wall between my two atriums. So I literally have three chambers in my heart instead of four. So therefore, my blood keeps flowing back to the lungs again. And like, so literally, when the oxygenated blood comes to the heart again, there's a chance of it flowing back. So that because of that, when I go into a cardiac arrest or something, like they need to defibrillate me twice for my heart to get to the right rhythm because the first defibrillation can shunt me, like reverse the flow. And then the second one will only put it back on the normal route. So it's very tricky. But for me, I thought they were cardiac, I thought they were asthma attacks, right? So I had all these cardiac arrests before I got diagnosed as well. But the only sign of a cardiac arrest is you choke. You can't breathe,
Mhm, mhm,
right? You just entirely go choking. So I've literally trained myself because of that now when I'm choking, like literally how to revive my heart again. So for me now it's like sixth sense. So I don't panic and I literally know to cough from my abdomen and hit my chest and get my heart to start again. So that's it's good in one way because you only have 3 minutes before
yeah.
you die and pass out. But I know to do my first aid until 911 comes. But the tricky part is because when the 911 comes, by the time they come, I'm all normal,
Mhm, mhm,
right? And there's no signs of me having a cardiac arrest, and I have no data to show them I had a cardiac arrest. So when I go to ER, no one believes me. Other than my doctors at John Hopkins, no one else believes me. So it's tricky, but if you know your oxygen levels are falling ahead of time, you can actually prevent it. All you have to do is just rest and wear your oxygen and crank it up. And just don't use your legs. As long as you don't use your legs and sit down, you can and take big breaths and oxygen, you can like get it prevent from a cardiac arrest.
mhm. And this syndrome, so Eisenmenger syndrome that you have, how many people have that?
It's very rare.
It's a very rare
It's
condition.
very rare, but pulmonary hypertension is very common.
Okay.
So pulmonary hypertension literally is like due to underlying disease, your lungs adjust. So everyone's lungs are literally the lungs are the softest tissue you have in the body. It's built in such a way so that it can oxygenate your the blood easily because the tissue is lesser thick and so the blood flows through the tissues and the oxygenate they happen faster. But the thing is due to some underlying condition, but for me is because it was getting too much blood. The lungs were getting too much blood than it was supposed to get. The lung tissues get thicker, right? Because it's only built to pump only a limited amount of blood, but when it gets too much blood coming, it needs to work harder to pump. So it gets thicker and thicker. So this can happen because for me, it's because of that. For other people, maybe because of eczema or some tissue related thing that literally gets your lung tissues to get thicker. Or maybe it can be for COPD because of smoking. Your nicotine goes and ties in your lung walls. Or for cystic fibrosis or pulmonary fibrosis, it's because of a fibrosis or maybe because of phlegm and stuff. So then what happens is then your arteries become very thin or your lung walls are too thick and the pressure that the blood comes from your lungs to the heart is quite high. So for a normal person, it has to be less than 20, but for whoever has pulmonary hypertension, it's anything above 20 is considered hypertension in the pulmonary. So for me, it's 138. I'm 6 times. Yeah, I'm 6 times the normal pressure it's supposed to be. So yeah, so pulmonary hypertension is very common. So it's not rare. So
And so we can see, on the if people have watched the video of the recording, like they see that you don't have any right now. You don't have any
yeah,
lung support. I mean, how do you deal with it like on a daily basis? Because when we were, in Malta, you still had, this sort of unit you carry with you,
yes,
you just, in case, but you don't wear it all the time, which is also like good news for you.
I used to wear it all the time because when I got diagnosed, until I had got my own OxiWear, I was on oxygen 24/7. I had to wear it because I didn't know when my oxygen levels were falling. And after I started getting wearing my oxygen wear, only we learned like what my normal oxygen levels look like on a day-to-day activities. So then I was able to get out of my oxygen 24/7 use, and now I just carry it around everywhere with me in case if it drops for emergency. Because then if it drops, the first thing you have to do is quickly wear it and crank it up to a higher liter. So until you revive your heart, you have your oxygen flowing into the brain. And because even if you get edema in the brain, like fluid in the brain, just as you start pushing oxygen, the fluid disperses. So the stroke symptoms go off. So because of that, I carry it around still with me for emergency, but I don't use it now as how I used to use it 24/7 before.
And so now you can still go, swimming, doing physical activity.
No, I'm not allowed in the pool yet.
Not allowed yet.
Yeah, it's like, telling that's the most difficult part, when you are a swimmer and when you're not allowed to go into the pool anymore.
Hmm.
So I can just dip my legs and wade, but not allowed to swim because it's too much
Oh.
strain on the heart.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. No, thanks a lot for
Yeah.
sharing that with us. So I think people might have noticed that you have something around your ear.
Yeah, that's the
That's what
oxywear.
that's what I wanted to talk about. So can you explain us, what type of wearable it is, what it is capable of measuring, and also why it's positioned on the ear?
Yeah, so this is OxiWear, which is literally like the same old standard pulse oximeter that anyone would know when they go to a hospital that they put it on the finger.
It's on your finger.
Yeah, they put it on the finger and tell you to keep the hand still, and then on the monitor they check what your oxygen and heart rate looks like. So it's the same technology, but the difference is everything that comes on the hand, the wrist, they all measure your oxygen only when the hand is still.
Mhm.
And when the hand moves around, you can't literally take readings because the pulse oximeter, the red light signal keeps changing. So, an active person and a moving person, none of the devices are able to get a continuous reading. But with OxiWear, like even when you are active walking around, we are able to get continuous readings because unlike the hand, even though you move, the ear doesn't move. Because of that, we can continuously get the readings from your ear. And for medical grade oxygen readings, the It has to be very vascularized and have a lot of blood capillaries and blood flowing through your fingers and sorry, your wherever you measure oxygen. So standard medical readings can only be taken either from your fingertip or the helix of the ear or from your forehead. And for the forehead one, they really tighten it up so the light has can go through the skull to the brain.
Okay.
But on the ear is very vascularized. That's why when you have alcohol, the first place to brush is your ear tip. When you're angry, when you're embarrassed, you will feel your ears heating up. That's because your blood goes. You have a lot of blood flowing through your the tip of the top part, the helix of the ear. So because of that, and the tissue is very thin, so it makes it very easy to get a good reading from the helix. So even if you are in a hospital ICU bed, when your fingers don't work, they use the ear to get readings. Because and the thing is, especially when your oxygen levels hit anything below 80, like when your oxygen flow is really low, your fingertips actually don't get enough blood circulating. That's why your fingers freeze, right? So your fingertips don't, any extremities in the body don't get enough blood because your heart always prioritizes the brain and try to pump as much as brain blood to the brain as possible. So you are awake and conscious. And but because of that, the ear you can still get a good reading, unlike the fingers. And so that's why like it's easy for us to get readings. And the other thing is for pulse oximeters, it's a big issue is the skin, the palm skin, if you're wearing nail polish, the thick nail fingernails, and also for anyone who has dark skin, the skin
Mhm.
is on the palm is much thicker and the pigments absorb the light. So there's a lot of things when it comes to the PPG system that you use for pulse oximeters that you need to keep in mind to make it accurate for every skin tone, everyone who has different palm skins, the finger tone. And at the same time, for people who have diseases like Raynaud's, scleroderma, sickle cell, they don't get good readings on the finger at all. They can't get any readings. But with the ear, the skin is thinner and it's easy for you to calibrate it or get good readings for all skin tones and different conditions. And even people who have diseases like scleroderma, Raynaud's, sickle cell, they still can get a reading on the ear. So therefore, it helps a larger population of patients who have chronic diseases that prevents them from getting a blood oxygen reading to get a good reading and monitor them while they're doing their day-to-day activities as well.
Yeah, and I guess it also serves that, that purpose of using it when you're active because then you don't have anything
Yeah.
downstairs. Like, I mean, for example, I have like an Aura ring. I never use it when I
Yeah.
sports because then,
And also the other thing is like I'm a developer. So for someone like me who's always using hands for work, you can't wear something on the hand all the time.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And the reason why you wear it on the cusp and not on the lobe is that because on the lobe you don't have
Yeah, you don't have
blood.
as much as blood coming. Like if you see now, see my helix, my top of the ear is red, but my bottom of the ear is white. And that's why we pierce the ear at the bottom because it's not that. It doesn't bleed as much as, when you pierce the top of the ear.
And the working principle is you mentioned it's polyplety. No,
It's
right?
PPG, it's polyplethysmography.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty much like the sensor, it's like light sensors and infrared sensors. So they go through the blood and calculate how much of blood is oxygenated and how much of the blood is deoxygenated. And at the same time, based on the PPG, you can get multiple other different readings about your pulse, your heart rhythms, and different other uh, signs from your body that the doctors needs to know.
And what have been like some of the technical, like the biggest technical challenges you had in developing the technology? Like, was it miniaturization where you had to fit this in a? I mean, we see it; it's relatively small.
Yeah.
Mm,
So yeah, that was one of the biggest challenges because Our IP and my initial planning was for this to be IoT, but there's no sensors that fit this size. So because of that, as the initial version, we had to go out as a device that depends on the phone, so that it transfers the data through the phone rather than directly to the cloud and directly able to get a call. So now what it does is like it's a standalone device. It still saves data, but then it has to transmit to the phone first through the OxiWear app to go into the cloud and send it to someone. So yeah, and then getting it to this size was super challenging because our board itself is less than a 1 centimeter radius. So trying to get that reading done like properly and packaging it and putting everything into that, bundling it into this form factor is very hard. And this is like the seventh iteration of the device. Because we had to keep changing the design based on the user feedback we got, because we had to figure out, okay, people wear headphones. How does it work with headphones? Some have hearing aids. How does it work with hearing aids? And even some earphones have the back piece going behind the ear.
Yeah.
And people wear glasses, and I wear oxygen, right? So keeping all those tiny, tiny details in mind, had to figure out like how do we make a device that works with everything that people wear on their ear, around the ear, and on top of the ear. So yeah, it took us a long time to do it, but we had a really good customer base who's actually using it, like people, patients, and athletes who were willing to like test the device and give us feedback, and even doctors, because they all needed one. So they were
Yeah.
very, we were very hands on in developing by with like patients and any customer who would be using it, to make sure that we make a device that meets the customer requirements. But it took a lot of time, and plus on top of that, it's finding money
Yeah.
because it's hardware. Unlike software, you can't just debug. If you find something, you need to redo everything and change everything, and it all needs money. And the biggest challenge is investors don't invest in hardware. People don't like to invest in hardware. And on top of that, when the hardware has to go through FDA, no one wants to invest because it's a risk for most of the investors, because they don't know whether you will get FDA cleared or not. So people don't want to invest in FDA or any regulated hardware. Everyone loves investing in software. But
Yeah.
the thing is, I always say it's funny. Everyone wants to stay healthy. Everyone wants innovation coming. When it comes to their health, they want everything, but no one wants to put money for devices which actually can give you, because in medical industry, a software platform can't do anything. It has to be a device, right? And it's it's funny, like there are people who literally put millions of money for medicine and drug trials, which may not see the end of the tunnel at all,
Mhm.
right?
For the most
And
part, yeah.
yeah, for a larger part. But the devices, it's only about going back and adjusting to what the FDA wants, and one day you will get the clearance, right? It's not that we won't get clearance. The devices, it you don't know when you will get the clearance, but you will get the clearance,
Mhm.
right? It's just you will have to redo stuff. So, but still, no one wants to put money there. So it's a, I don't know, it's quite weird because there's so much money going into medicine and drugs, which are like about good 40% funding. But then for devices, it's about 2% funding that comes.
Mhm.
So it's very hard to find money.
Yeah, to fund
Yeah.
this type of medical devices. Yeah, it's interesting because in what I was thinking was we hear a lot as well about, longevity these days,
Yeah,
where, there's some part of the population is really into like, optimizing your health and
yeah,
I guess it's quite trendy in the US, California in particular. And I was wondering, like, I mean, to me, this sounds also like
yeah. This is very
an
applicable for longevity. Yeah, exactly.
exactly. Even if you don't have, pulmonary
Yeah,
hypertension, if you just want to know very precisely medical grade level your oxygen saturation, that's
yeah,
just when you do sports, basically throughout your day and night as well.
exactly. Yeah.
That can be used, right?
Because knowing that if you have any symptoms while sleeping, because at the end of the day, it's literally your oxygen that keeps you alive. So you don't need to have a condition, right? For anyone, the moment your oxygen drops down, that's the end of life, right? Which is
Pretty much.
like pretty much all your organs fail because they don't get enough oxygen, right? So it's, but it was funny until COVID, there was zero education on it. No one understood why oxygen mind like measurements are much important than your knowing your heart rate, right? Because the reason why your heart rate fluctuates is because your oxygen is low, right? Because your heart is trying to pump harder for you, so to make you more oxygenated. But people just didn't understand it until COVID. Like literally, I have to pitch to 357 investors for my first round of funding. And before COVID, no one invested. They were like, they everyone thought that you had to be wearing oxygen in order for you to know your oxygen. So because I was wearing oxygen, they thought it's only for people who's like me, who wears oxygen. So it came to a point where I had to remove my oxygen to pitch because otherwise they judge me by the book. They judge you by the cover.
Yeah.
So, and then even after COVID, they were still asking like, while the Apple Watch can't do it. I'm like, no, Apple Watch can't do medical grade. They can do it. They are doing it, but it's not medical grade, right? It's not, everyone can do oxygen when it's above 95.
Hmm. Hmm.
But the moment
Yeah.
it drops below 90, the accuracy is very bad, right? And that's the numbers you want to know
Hmm.
because the accuracy goes really down. And most of them, these are not actually tested for clinical trials, right? But still, the investors and the normal user don't understand it because they don't know why a pulse oximeter is needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like literally during COVID, so many was calling and asking, are these devices available for sale for us to give to every household to track like COVID? I was like, I wish I had money.
I wish we had all of
I was like, I wish
them.
people believe me before COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, but then that the good thing was that there was then a big change of.
Yeah, so for me, I always say the COVID was pretty much like a blessing in disguise for us. It
Mhm.
actually opened up, like, it educated the population of why it's needed
Yeah.
because people don't understand the value of breathing until they can't breathe.
Yeah, that's true.
Until breathing becomes your biggest problem, they don't understand the value of it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and I was wondering so I suppose the current version of the device that you wear, it measures oxygen saturation. It measures, I guess, as well, heart rate.
Yeah.
Do you think there would be also like some other potential biomarkers you could measure with it?
Yeah. So now on the wellness side of the device, on the paid subscription, we already push heart rate variability, blood oxygen variability, recovery rate, all those, but they will be pushed to the medical side as well after we do clinical trials. But on top of that, we will be pushing like respiratory rate and a lot of other vitals more on the like literally on the cardiovascular side. right? Because where I want to see OxiWear one day is as like one respiratory device where the doctors can see every respiratory related
Yeah,
readings,
markers.
markers from one place so that it can, rather than connecting multiple other wires and devices into a patient, so that they can see everything in one place, in one trend line, to see and understand what exactly went wrong.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, understood. Because I saw, I mean, I have the impression I see quite often, or there seems to be also a push now to use PPG or let's say
Yeah.
similar, let's say optical based methods for blood pressure.
Yeah,
But I don't know if that's something that
that's
might work.
something on the web.
That's something as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool because then yeah, you have one device that you can you just wear the whole. I mean, you we have one as well because funny story like my partner like won one of your devices when we were in the medtech world, so we both tried it. And yeah, I mean, you don't feel it. It's
Yeah.
like I was expecting that you would feel a bit pinched, and over time you want to take it away.
Yeah.
Like for example, my headset right now, it's like I'm pressing my
Yeah.
head. I wouldn't wear it like 24/7. But in your case, it's like you don't feel the weight of it, you don't feel the pressure of it.
Yeah.
It's quite impressive.
Yeah, we had to wait for FDA. It's lighter than an AirPod
Yeah.
because see, I'm the guinea pig. Like when a patient makes something for themselves, they make sure that every tiny detail matters, right? Because no patient wants to be noticed by others as someone with a disease,
Yeah.
right? So but the devices currently in the market for anything medical, they they all look very medical,
That's cool.
right? So that's something that my engineers were quite mad with me about it, because when they were doing designs, I'm like, nope, I can't wear this. Because things I said was, look, it has to be something that I can wear 24/7 without people coming and asking me, what is this? What's wrong with you? Right? I said, it's not about my disease and not being like ashamed of what I have, but it's about the inconvenience of explaining this 24 hours a day for everyone who comes and questions me.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have to go into detail to explain when people come and ask, and it's it's not quite it's not pleasant when you have to do it all the time, the whole day, right?
Yeah.
And you get sick and tired of it. And now even when people ask me, I said, oh, I have a busted engine. That's it.
The shortcut.
Yeah.
Uh,
And so
I
that's
wanted to
something, yeah,
ask.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
So that's something I keep in mind. Even now we are working on the next generation device. Even for that, that's something I always say. It has to be something that users forget that they are wearing. That something you can go shower with, something you can sleep with, something you can, without a issue, go do your day to day stuff. Because my whole purpose of doing this device was to build and bring that confidence to anyone with a chronic disease and empower them to go and live their life to the fullest. So the look and the feel of the device, it all matters then.
Yeah, and it needs to match that
Yeah.
expectation that you have. Yeah. No, that's impressive. Um, I wanted to ask you regarding the because we talked about funding and money a bit before. What are the business models that you follow actually to commercialize the device?
So on the wellness side, we sell the device for the wellness market through the website directly. So we are cleared as a wellness device, literally all parts of the world. So we have been shipping devices to US, New Zealand, like literally all parts of the world. And that website is separated as oxywear.fitness. But then now oxywear.com is entirely medical, which is for the FDA cleared medical device. And that we do it for hospitals as a hardware as a service.
Okay.
So we Like we literally have a hardware as a service for hospitals at 1,900 for a year, where they get the device, the software, like the app, unlimited data, and on top of that, a web-based platform where they can pull all the data, and so they can create their own reportings to the way they want it to report, right? So we have reports built for 6-minute walk tests for the pulmonary function labs.
Yeah.
And then we are working with sleep departments to create reports for them. Likewise, so it's a web-based platform where they can do their own reporting templates, and we can help them to build those so that they can pull all the data to one place and report for the medical requirements. So that we do as a hardware service, because then if they lose the device or if anything happens, because it's similar to the hearing aid, it's too small and we don't have a tracking in it because there's no tracking that can go into this size.
Yeah, yeah.
So in case if they lose the device, or if by mistake they drop it on the floor and drop something big on that and break it, right? So they can get one device replacement for that 1 year time, so that we prevent the problem of not being having device. And then also when we upgrade to the new device, then they can have, without having to buy a new device, we can replace them with the new medical release, like the next generation device. So we do it as a hardware as a service to hospitals, so that we can reduce that extra expenses that they can have, but also use this to prevent readmissions, run the pulmonary function testing,
Yeah.
and different use cases that they need oxygen measurements.
Okay. Very clear. Um, you mentioned, so you explained your story, which is, quite impressive. I repeat, 4 cardiac arrest and 3 strokes. And then you created your own device and now you wear it every day. And I think there's, hundreds of people who benefit from it. You also talked about the next generation of the device and your vision, for it, having it as a one kind of like wearable for everything cardiopulmonary, basically. What what fuels your energy and enthusiasm? Like, what keeps you going? Because I mean, before we hit record, you were telling me about, like, supply issues of the medical device part of of the wearable, which is, quite a struggle. So it can appear like, it is, I think, in a way, like, very successful, but I think on the other side, there's also a ton of challenges. So
Yeah.
yeah, I thought I'd get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Doing a medical device, I very openly say this is absolute torture. It's not like doing a novel one. It's so much extra paperwork and regulatory work you have to do. It's such a, like, there were days that we all were asking, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Right?
Yeah.
And especially when investors don't put money, where your bank balance goes to zero and you're like, how am I going to pay out my team this week? So it's very hard. But the only thing that kept us going was the emails that we get from patients saying how this, you know, until we got the FDA device, they purchased out the wellness device for their use.
Hmm.
And they were like, how they were able to do things that they were not able to do before. Right. Even for me, after 9 years, I went home last December. Right. So I thought I will never go home again. I will never get to go home. But after 9 years, because I can measure my oxygen throughout the whole flight and adjust my oxygen flow in flight, I my doctors were fine with me going home, right? So after 9 years, I went home, and now I'm allowed to cross the Atlantic. I travel, which I was not able to do before, right? My first flight was to Malta, right? That's how we met. That was my first flight out of the US, and because I never thought I'll ever get to cross the Atlantic. So similar to me, there's so many others who has, like, if someone goes on OxiWear.com, you will see all the stories of people who they had changed lives. Like, there are people who runs marathons now, and there are people who's just like me, traveling around and going on holidays And someone sent a mail saying, for the first time since I got diagnosed, I went for a Yankees game. And
That's very cool.
and some are like going back to the gym. And another patient's daughter mailed and said, thank you so much. My mom is now doing grocery shopping on her own without any of us having to accompany her since she got diagnosed. So those are like just tiny things in life which people are scared to do, because
Yeah,
once you choke once, you don't want that choking feeling ever again. So people are scared.
yeah,
So if anyone who has a chronic condition, it's in their head. They're just scared. They can do things. It's just they're scared. So with this, there's so many people who's now going around and living their life to the fullest. And that's exactly what I wanted. And seeing the change, the difference we make in people's lives, that's the only thing that keeps us going. Otherwise,
mhm,
I would have walked out this long time back
yeah,
when it was hard to raise money and no one was believing in me.
yeah. No, thanks for that's very touching. Yeah, invite people in to have a look, but um, you say like, yeah, it's the small things left, but in the end, no, you cannot do them. Like the the change it makes if you all of a sudden, I mean, just from a mental health
Yeah,
perspective, if you get rid of the fear,
it's
that's
all in the head.
completely changes.
Everything is in the head, right?
Yeah, it
So,
completely changes how you see the
yeah,
world. But beyond, let's say, your physical ability,
yeah,
what you can do, but it's tremendous. Yeah, really really cool. There's a couple. I'm watching the time because I know you have
yeah,
the hard stop in a few minutes. Um, there's a couple of recurring questions. I think the one on the anecdotes we covered it in your last answer. I was wondering, for those who would be interested, to learn more about the field in which you work, the technology you developed,
yeah.
what resources would you recommend them to check out? Be it books or publications or websites.
So they can go to oxiwear.com, and on top of that, like they can connect me on LinkedIn
Yeah.
and send me a message. Or if you, I'm proud to say my SEO and OxiWear SEO is quite good. If you just Google OxiWear and even my first name, the we will we will come on top of the Google search.
You cracked the ACU game. That's good.
Yeah, like it's funny because we have not even put any keywords in our website.
Yeah.
It's literally nice to see like, oh, just free SEO built up. Okay.
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll put the links in the description
yeah.
if people want to connect with you or follow you to see what's next with OxiWear and with your journey. The last question I have is, another one I ask every guest. If you would recommend, a fellow healthcare innovator, as a potential guest for the show, who would that be, and why would you recommend her or him?
I have this other company who's doing a device for Parkinson's disease to reduce the tremors. I can't remember their name, but they are based out of uh, Boston.
Boston, yeah.
We were in the same Mass Medic accelerator, and I would highly recommend them because I have seen the difference it makes, and I have seen people writing again wearing the watch they made for Parkinson's. It controls the tremor, so people hands are not shaking anymore, so they're able to write and do the stuff using their hands.
Ah, so it's not the deep brain stimulation. It's
No, it's just a hand, like a device,
ah,
and you wear it, and it controls your tremors in the hands and all, so you can do your day-to-day activities. So
super cool.
highly recommend them. I can't remember the name, but because I know they went through a name change for the company, and Yeah, but I can connect you with her
Sure.
on email.
No, I would be
Yeah.
happy to. And I mean, if you recall, if we
Yeah.
join the name after the
Yeah.
recording, I can still add it to the yeah, to the show notes. Shavini, thank you so much, for your time, for, what you shared. I think it's a really, really inspiring story. I'm happy that, I kind of like captured a part of
Yes.
it on the podcast. I wish you the best. I hope you get to come back to Europe, and we get to, hang out again, or maybe I'd like another conference. I don't know if you plan to go
Yes.
to Malta this year.
Yeah. I may be in Malta. We can meet in Malta.
Perfect.
Yes.
So I'll need to see if I'll be there again, but I think, there's a possibility.
Yeah.
Really cool. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Matthew. Have a good one.
Thanks for watching the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. You can subscribe by clicking on the podcast channel at the top right and watch another episode here at the bottom.